Hey YouTube, I'm back with another video. So today is day 8 of VADIM. I can never get it right. Maybe next year I'll have to do this in like April or August. So I am finally here with my review of the Book of Night Women by Marlon James. Unfortunately, I can't find my copy of the book anywhere. I swear to you guys, it's been floating around my house for months and now I can't find it when I finally come to do the review. So I read the book back in January. People on Instagram and YouTube voted. It was like my very first kind of like what should I read video. And they voted for me to read Book of Night Women out of the 5 books I had in that group. This is Marlon James. I think this was his first book that he wrote. I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads, and I will not really give you too much of a synopsis of the book, but I'll kind of tell you my thoughts and the certain things I remember. So it is mainly about a Jamaican slave woman named Lilith and a couple other slave women in Jamaica. Right before, right before like the ending, which is like a big event happens. I don't want to give away that event, but it's pretty much leading up to that event, based about Lilith, certain like powers she has as well. They're about like maybe supernatural or like magical powers. I want to say she was an Obaya woman, or I'm saying it wrong. I think it's Obaya or Obia woman. And certain things would happen based, kind of like based on her emotions, but she didn't. It's the way I remembered it. It didn't seem like she had much control over certain things that would happen. She was also known for her green eyes that she had, and that was rumored to be that one of her slave masters was her father. Like I said, I gave the book 4 stars. I will talk about what I liked and what I didn't like. I guess why it was hard for me to kind of do a review on this book is because I did not necessarily connect with the characters much. It was told in the 3rd person, so by the end of the novel, I'm not sure if they make it clear in the beginning if I missed it, but by the end of the novel, we come to realize that like Lilith's daughter, or like, you know, a kin of hers, is telling her story. And I think that's kind of gave me that emotional distance from it. The book is it was very violent. I think it was a little more violent than the other slave narratives I've read, or neo-slave narratives, I should say, because this is a fictional story about slave women, so it'll be, some people might classify it as historical fiction. I would say more of it is a neo-slave narrative, as that it is about slaves, but definitely written after slavery by an author who was not a slave themselves. And and it was the same with other characters. Like, I could not really connect with them, even though I was interested in the story. I liked the story, but there was like an emotional distance there, that kind of created like this kind of like unsure feeling about what I was really reading. And also the fact of, the main character Lilith talked about whiteness a lot, and I was kind of thrown off by that until it took me a little bit longer to process what was going on. So what happens is, yes, Lilith is talking about, you know, whiteness and like the certain like privileges that come with whiteness, and how, you know, with her green eyes, she kind of, you know, wish she could, you know, tap into maybe like the white part of herself. But it makes sense because white people were the ones who were treated as humans. Then they got freedom. They were able to have complete control of their lives, and unfortunately the lives of other people, or, you know, they, to the point where, their slaves weren't even considered people, they were considered property. Um, and someone else in the comments section mentioned like they liked the book a lot because it showed like the human aspect of slaves, and they are completely right about that. So one thing I had trouble with dealing with in this book was um, the discussion of sex and how Lilith and some other characters, slave women, desired sex. And in Lilith's case, there were points where she desired sex from like her slave masters, or the overseers. And of course, we know now that slave between masters and yeah, between slaves and masters is rape. And I think that's what the biggest problem I had with this book, because I'm like, well, she wants to have, sex, but this is rape. Like, I'm like, this is rape, this is rape, this is rape. But I guess in her case of being, a human being, even though she is a slave, that desire, and part of the desire of wanting to, have sex with some of the slave overseers was this idea that this is kind of like the closest thing she can get to whiteness, the closest thing she'll ever get to, having freedom over herself, and just being seen as a human being. Um, you know, and I guess, I grapple with that because people still kind of talk about certain, instances between sex and slave masters as if like it's a consensual thing. So I kind of see where Marlon James was kind of going with that, showing that like, yeah, they were slaves, but they still had, human sexual desires as well. Um, However, I still don't want for people to forget that like sex between slaves and slave masters is rape. It's not sex. It's not consensual. It's rape. Um, but I think it took a good writer such as Marlon James to kind of play and teeter with that line. I'm not sure if certain people would like that in a book. Now, if you're interested in what I'm discussing, I would definitely say pick up the book. I think it's a great read. I'm excited to read A Brief History of Southern Killings. Um, and I don't have much else to say about the book other than that. And that's pretty much what stuck for me these last 5 months. I read it in January. If I say too much about the plot, I feel like I'm giving too much away. Part of what draws you into the book is the certain things that happens to Lilith while she is on the plantation. If you are not interested in like graphic violence, then I would suggest you pass with this book. And I think James did something different than other neo-slave narratives. Like, but I'm trying to figure out a slave narrative that I could kind of compare it to, and I can't. I'm thinking about like Beloved. I'm thinking about Wench by Dolan Perkins Valdez, and none of them compare. Like maybe in Beloved, seeing Setha's strength as a mother, but the group of slave women in this book, I think they all had like a collective kind of strength that I don't remember seeing in any of the other neo-slave narratives that I've read. So if you're interested in that, if you're interested in maybe reading about Jamaican slavery, which is also a book I've never read about, or a topic I've never read about, then go pick it up. I am glad I am finally doing this video because a lot of people wanted that video done. And I also want you guys to know my next book for this month. So the book you guys picked for me to read based on National Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month is Shelter by Jin Young. So I'll be reading this by the end of the month and eventually giving you guys a review. So it looks like the last review I owe you all is, I think I only owe you guys Tar Baby. I still haven't finished Tar Baby yet. I'm still struggling through that. I hope you guys have a good day, And I will talk to you guys again tomorrow.